Once upon a time, there was a young lady. Her name was Cinderfella. She lived in the forest, and she was going about the forest, going through it, trying to get stuff she needed to get. And she saw this poster up on the tree. It said, "Everybody in the kingdom is invited to attend the Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall." And of course, she being in the kingdom, she wanted to go to Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall. So she went home and she talked to her family. And Mino Mepstud and the three-step sisters. She said, "Oh, Mino Mepstud, I want to go to Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall. I just love to go to Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall." And the Mino Mepstud looked at her and said, "You got to stay home and take care of the household chores." And the three-step sisters started laughing. They said, "We're going to Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall, but you're going to stay home and take care of household chores." And Cinderfella said, "Oh." So she watched as the Mino Mepstud and three-step sisters got ready, and they disappeared, going out to the Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall. And she was by herself, and she said to herself, "Oh, I wish I could go to the Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall. I just love to go to the Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall." And then all of a sudden, guess who appeared? Her furry Maud Gutter. That's right. So she looked at her furry Maud Gutter and she said, "Oh, furry Maud Gutter, I'd love to go to Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall. Mino Mepstud and three-step sisters say I have to stay home and take care of the household chores." And furry Maud Gutter said, "Wait a minute. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a beautiful white horse, a gown, and everything to be the most precious creature at the Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall." And Cinderfella began to jump up and down, and she was so excited. And Fairy Godmother said, "Wait a minute, here's a connection." She said, "What's the connection?" She said, "You got to be home by midnight." So Cinderfella said, "I promise I'll be home by midnight." And so all of a sudden, she said, "Poof," and there it was. There was a carriage, beautiful horses, and everything, and she was in a beautiful gown. Off she went to Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall. Well, she was ascending the stairs to Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall. The Prancing Hance's looked up, saw how beautiful Cinderfella was, and he went over to get her. But that time, she slopped her dripper. When the Prancing Hance's saw the dripper she slopped, he immediately went over to pick it up. But by that time, Cinderfella already departed and went about the kingdom the next day trying to find a fit to foot it. Well, he looked virtually everywhere, couldn't find a fit to foot that doggone thing, and finally ended up at Cinderfella's house. Well, he tried on the Mino Mepstud, couldn't fit her. Tried on each and every one of the three-step sisters, didn't fit them either. And finally, he saw this young lady down there on the floor, washing the floor, and that was Cinderfella, and he slapped it on her foot, and it fitted. So the moral of the story is, if you want to go to Prancing Hance's Fancy Fall and Lonely Club, you have to remember to do what? Slop your dripper.
Look at your face. I told you he was a nut.
I didn't say or thought that he was a nut.
He's a good nut.
I just think that story really surprised me.
He told that story to my class when I was a little bit older than you.
Wow.
I haven't told that story in probably 20 some
7th
years.
grade.
20,
More than 20.
27.
Because I was what? 12, 13? So yeah, more than 20 some
It
years.
was over 20 some years.
Yay.
When you went to Oregon to give that briefing, you told me. Or,
I did?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's like the classmates I asked laughing on kids.
I love that story. Where'd you learn that story?
It was captain I worked with used to tell it, but he wasn't very good. I mean, he told it, but he wasn't very good. So I took and jazzed it up. Because we went all around the country giving security briefings. And the whole purpose of the story was not to drop your security slipper.
I just remember our class was dying. Everybody used to always say, "Oh, everybody remembers you, Dad." Whenever I talk about you, all these kids that I grew up with, that went to school with, like Mary, remember Mary? I keep talking to her on Facebook. She always sends you prayers and different wishes. My little best friend, my little girl. You gotta remember Mary. She didn't do it my wedding.
Another lady helped me at DMV, hook things up.